Hey YouTube, and how are y'all doing? I wanted to do a what sold video because we had some great sales in January and I wanted to share them with you guys, but I decided that I'm going to do it in the snow. Yeah, I'm taking a walk in the snow today. I thought it would be really fun to take you guys along with me while I did it and tell you what sold at the same time, so let's go. So in January, we did a whole lot of auction style listings as well as buy it nows. So it looks like up first here we'll have a Brooks Brothers pajama set that was new with tags, sold for $60. On top we have a model train track, new old stock in the box for about $21. Next we have a die-cast model kit that sold for $26 and some change. On the bottom there we have a vintage lot of lighters that went out to Ray for $20 and some change. Thanks, Ray. We appreciate your business. Both these next items sold for $20, and Corgi is a name that you guys should be watching out for when you're looking through boxes of old cars or toys. Up next, we had this $87 sale with this Testors Miss Budweiser Hydroplane model kit, and a $26 sale on this vintage Ferrari electric slot car. The cars and models that you see in this video were all bought at House Clean Out that we did all at one time, mostly a new old stock. So we got $35 out of this steam crane model kit that sold. On the bottom is the most adorable clock that you'll ever see, fit right in the palm of my hand, made by the Bradley Company. It sold for $30. Up next we had a new old stock Markland Mini Club train track set that sold for $126.50. And on the bottom we sold a vintage 1986 model kit for $20. These are new in the package, Joseph A. Banks underwear for men that sold for $43 and some change. On the top we hit a $7 sale with a glass that is a souvenir from Mammoth Cave. On the bottom we had this $150 sale with a vintage license plate topper from an MG car, and a very nice note from the buyer too. Both of these die-cast cars that sold in the $20 range were made by Corgi Toys. That's C-O-R-G-I, and it is a BOLO. On the top we have a Poly Toys die-cast car that sold for $28, and on the bottom we have a Mercury die-cast car that sold for $69. Both die-cast companies are Italian. Up next we had a vintage banner that sold for $47, and it featured the Longhorn Speedway Raceway in Pennsylvania. Up next we had another Italian car that sold, and it was made by Mebe Toys, and that's M-E-B-E Toys. And it sold for $237 and some change, and it was a pretty special car that went back to Italy. Up next, another Italian vintage toy car made by Mercury. This is a Maserati 3500 GT. It sold for $54. And a lot of used designer perfumes that we sold for $45. We sold a rare Matchbox catalog from 1960 for $96, and it was made in the UK. And on the bottom we sold a Matchbox Lesney product Rolls-Royce Phantom for $22 and some change. Up next we had some Brooks Brothers boxer shorts that were new with tags that sold for $27. There were 2 pair. And the first pair of Jimmy Choo shoes that I ever found to resell sold for $52. And these were older shoes, I'd say from like the 2000s maybe, so they were about 20 years old. Up next, our most expensive sale of the month was a vintage 1985 Ferrari car model that sold for $355. We also sold this amazing vintage pennant from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it sold for $60.99. Also, we had this Tom Ford perfume sale coming in at $40, and on the bottom we have this oak and brass shoehorn that sold for $30. So this Valentino V perfume spray sold for $85. On the bottom we had a lot of doll sweaters that I picked up at a yard sale and sold those for $20. This lot of White Diamonds perfume on the top sold for $25. And on the bottom we have this monogram train accessory that sold for $33. We have some train accessories that sold on the top there for $30. On the bottom we had this vintage Porsche grill badge that sold for $60. Both of these items came from a yard sale last summer, and this is a Polaris sweatshirt that sold for $30, and then a light sconce that sold for $110. This was a very small bottle of perfume that sold on the top. You can see it was 0.25 ounces, sold for $31.99, and on the bottom we had a Brooks Brothers robe that sold for $75, and it was new in the package. On this next sale, the buyer bought 2 die-cast cars, one being Mercury and one being Poly Toys, and they're both the Italian die-cast cars. His order was $38.49. On the bottom, we had a Rolls-Royce Poly Toy car that sold for $33 and some change. On the top, we had a $20 Mickey apron sale, and then on the bottom, we had a Louis Vuitton $250 sale with a keychain that we found in the bottom of a box on that pick with all the cars. These next 2 sets were pretty cool. They were models, and on the top we had a Chevy step-side pickup truck, and on the bottom was a model that was for a train set, and it actually built up to be a coal bunker. We sold this Poly Toy Mini Cooper die-cast car for $55.99, and on the bottom we have a Revel model Carroll Shelby Cobra Mustang kit for $35.99. This next sale was a vintage Ford brass belt buckle. We sold it for $19.99, and on the bottom we have a pair of vintage spandex running pants that sold for $49.99. On the top we have this vintage Matchbox yesteryear car. If you're wondering why it sold for $5, it was missing a part, so it kind of made it less desirable. But on the bottom we had a Corgi car that sold for $46. Here on the screen we have 2 bottles of designer perfume that sold. The first one was Chanel No. 5, and it's on the top and it sold for $40. And on the bottom we have a Versace perfume that sold for $25. This was a new old stock toy that sold on the top. It says it was a Ford Auto Transport truck, and it sold for $29.99. And on the bottom we have a new with tags Louisville sweatshirt that I found at a yard sale for $5. Here in the screen we have a BJ and the Bear model kit that sold for $150, and it was new old stock. Also blank VHS tapes that sold for $22. On the top we have a Jimmy Choo perfume set that sold for $30, and on the bottom we have a W.L. Weller Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey bar mirror, and it sold for $200. Up next, we sold a vintage, new old stock BJ and the Bear toy truck and trailer for $185. And on the bottom, a lot of 3 new in the package Joseph A. Banks boxers for $22. Next, this Ford Auto Transporter model hobby kit sold for $18. These vintage briefs sold for $17, and they were Joseph A. Banks. If you ever get a chance to buy new in the package underwear, go for it because they really do resell well. And a little pair of Nike shoes that I picked up at a yard sale for $2. So we sold this vintage 1968 Revel model kit, Volkswagen Bug, for $61 on the top there. If you haven't noticed this trend, models do very well right now on eBay, so definitely want to comp the models out. Here we had a model kit on the top that sold for $20, and it was made in England, and it apparently was a reproduction from a 1914 bus. Also, Fendi shower gel that sold for $40. Here we have some sales with train accessories, one sale being $19 and the other sale being $48 and some change. These were 2 Simmons accessory parts for trains, and they sold for $38. This next sale was a Markland Mini Club Power Pack Transformer, and it's an accessory for trains. And on the bottom we have a 1980 model truck kit, sold for $36. The next sale on the top there was a Budweiser light beer can cooler that I bought at a yard sale for $2 and sold it for $40. And on the bottom, another one of the Ford Auto Transporter hobby kits sold for $18.50. And for the last one, we have a vintage Meebe Toys Porsche die-cast car that sold for $67. And on the bottom, we have a Sony vintage boombox that sold for $48. That about does it for this video. I hope that you guys have learned a few brands that you wouldn't know normally to look out for. Also, let me know in the comments what you thought about this video. I know the snow was pretty crunchy, but I left it at the volume that it naturally was. And it kind of sounds like someone's eating potato chips. I'm not sure. So it's not like that I'm going to have this opportunity a lot, but I did want to do this a little differently this time because we had the beautiful snow here in Kentucky. Thanks you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.